Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
This is The Long War. I'm Rob Baer, and joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher and Wyatt Turk. What's up, guys?
Yo, dog, great to be here.
Hey, what's up?
Wyatt, we thought we lost you there for a minute. I'm glad you're back.
I just had to answer the door.
No,
earlier when you were taking a shit.
Oh, yeah. Blame Facebook for not sending me the notification.
Dude, I blame Facebook for so much shit.
He's like, done.
You don't even understand. I have to literally pay somebody to babysit Facebook every day.
Like, I blame Facebook for global warming, flat earth conspiracy, fucking, like, the list goes on. You know what I'm saying?
You name it, I'll blame Facebook for it, bro. It's the worst. Anyways, well, I'm glad you're back.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great to be here.
We're a little sad that you might not make the Adepticon, but
yeah, I'm definitely not making it to Adepticon.
Well, I mean, we can return those videos for you if you want us to. Like, I'll go to Oregon first.
Okay,
I'll take those videos back.
But Dave Doge in chat's like, Facebook devalued my savings and ate my homework. Yep.
It's true.
Fucking love it. Yep. So Wyatt's not going to make it, which is highly unfortunate. So make sure when you see Wyatt online to send him lots of donations and money, because money makes people feel better when they're depressed.
Jeez. Wait up.
Well, definitely don't have to, but I will thank you.
You know when you guys go hit that DM and you're like, yo, I'm thinking of you, dog? Yo, like $5 make them feel a little better.
Oh, instead of like a thumbs up, it could just be like here's $1.
You know, like here's a get well card. You open it, look for that 20. You know what I'm saying?
So true.
He's not going to be there,
true.
Which sucks, all joking aside. But
Yeah, I'm not happy about it.
You probably make it to WarGamesCon, though?
Oh, like WarGamesCon is in June or something.
Yeah, June.
June or July.
I'm hopeful that April is like the comeback.
Tight.
Yeah, I had my first post-surgery follow-up with the doc yesterday. And he was like really stoked with how things were looking. I don't want to go into details just because, you know, it is like a surgery. Some people might get grossed out, but the extent of the surgery was much larger than I was initially thought it was. And I think that was just to keep people from freaking out. They don't really want to show you pictures of it or anything like that. But, you know, like things are going really good, which is the good news. The bad news is that like it was like a lot bigger than I thought it was. So it's just going to take a while to heal up.
Well, I hope we have you back soon.
Yeah.
We're going to have to power through without Wyatt's guidance at Adepticon, which luckily we have some volunteers. We have Matt Beasy coming out to DJ on the spreadsheet. I think even Arthur is going to be there and he might be able to help out. So we should have a pretty solid staff and we should not fail and sully Wyatt's good name with fucking up this event. We have enough people, I think.
Also, I believe Tiny Canadian will be there.
Oh, Jesse? Oh, yeah, we need Jesse. Like, he's invaluable.
Yep.
Yeah. Just fucking
invaluable.
Comes through clutch all the time for us. So it's going to be tight. Long War doubles. I think Adepticon's website is like straight, like closed. They're like, no more anything.
Turn the party off.
Yeah, like literally it's like, it's a graphic now. It's not even like text. It's like, I went and right clicked and saved a copy of their fucking like 2023 logo to update our player pack. I was like, what the fuck why is this in the image? Like it's photoshopped closed, son. Like, I was like, damn, dog, you guys had like graphic design that shit. Like, So should be a packed house. I am excited, and so we have one more podcast before we hit the road.
I think that's right.
I'm going to be fucking wearing my soft, comfortable mask Wyatt bought me last year for Adepticon to remind myself that Wyatt's not there, and I have to do what Wyatt would do this time and wash my hands.
What would Wyatt do?
He washed the fuck out of his hands.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, wash your hands. Don't get the Ronas.
Here's my move so that I don't mess it up, right? Because like you forget stuff when you travel all the time. I always forget at least something. But whenever I go to the airport, when I fly, like first thing I do usually after I get through security is like buy a Gatorade or a water or something. I always buy like 2 things of hand sanitizer. So that way I have them like on my person. I can put it in like my carry-on or whatever. And those are usually good for like a weekend at a con.
Mm-hmm.
So just do that. Like when you go to LAX to fly out, before you get on your plane, just like buy a couple of things of hand sanitizer and keep them on you.
100%. I need something that also reminds me too. And so like I basically trained for this for like 2 years. You'd have a mask on and it reminds you not to like fidget with the mask.
Oh, you know what you could do?
So you're putting your hands on your face.
Maybe you can find these at like the grocery store or something, but sometimes they sell hand sanitizer with like a keychain attachment.
Oh, I have one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
so
a carabiner on it.
Here's what you do. You put it on your
event badge.
Your event badge.
Yes. Because I fucking straight almost died from COVID after LVO, dude. Like I was like, bro, my body is not equipped to interact with this fucking virus, and I need to be like how I was at Adepticon last year. Like I'm washing my hands, but I had Wyatt with me. That's why we have that shirt on our swag shop now. Anybody listening, there's a section of my swag shop, hereticswag.com, called Inside Jokes. And there is a hilarious shirt that we designed on stream.
The Jiminy Cricket.
Yes. Why wash hands. But
I think you should have done it like Always Sunny style cricket.
Bro, I just had to like gangster that shit out of my ass, dude. I don't even know what that is.
Wait, you don't watch Always Sunny?
No.
I can't. How?
I mean, I don't know how you have the time, but you like watch that and every episode of Law and Order?
All of them.
There's like 5 million episodes of that show.
Dude, it's wild.
Oh, new season of Mandalorian started up. Are you watching it, Rob?
Yes. I watched the first episode. I have not watched the second, although thanks to the internet, I already know a bunch of shit about it. Thanks, internet.
Well, I mean, it seems like it's on you for not watching it when it came out.
I guess you could say that,
but
I'll watch it. That'll be fine.
All right. Rob, you know what's fine?
Rolling out to the Cave of Wonders.
Rolling out to the Cave of Wonders.
It's a great segue. Would you rather live in the 1920s and be really rich, or live in the 1980s and just be comfortable?
Am I magic locked into my role, or can I like pursue business ventures and be more rich if I lived in the 80s? Could I like start a business?
You got a good job.
I'm magic locked into comfort.
Like a good boomer. You're just gonna stay in that job until you die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which would be like 100 years old versus a guy in the 1920s. We just Googled this.
The average life, 53 years old. Hold on.
Makes
average
sense.
Life.
That's when my mom's dead.
I imagine that like, was that in the 80s or the 20s?
In the 80s was...
Because I imagine that even back in the 20s, like having a shit ton of money probably helped immensely in terms of like healthy lifestyle.
So white men at birth year 1920, 54.4, 1980, 70.
But where you live in the 20s, so you were born in like 1889 or some shit. You were born in like 1890. Let's say that.
Oh, this chart doesn't go back that far. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like in the 20s, if you had a lot of money, then you have access to, I mean, a lot of what we would consider very like basic amenities that most people probably didn't have access to, being poor.
You know what no one had access to? Penicillin.
True.
You know, when I say that, but I've never had a penicillin shot in my life.
You don't mean they're not shots; they're pills and shit too.
I've never been prescribed that. Like, so I've made it 40 years old next month.
You never had a bad one. I mean, even a lot of antibiotics now are penicillin based.
Oh, then
you probably didn't even realize you were taking it.
Well, then I've been prescribed that.
Oh yeah, for sure, dude.
Lack of antibiotics definitely not great.
I think I'd do the 80s, man, because the 80s were wild, dude. Even just comfortable in the 80s. Tight. And I don't want to deal with the 20s. Like, I live in America. The 20s was this Prohibition era.
Just the roaring 20s, dude. It was a great time.
I mean, I guess I'm set up to be rich.
Haven't you seen, like, The Great Gatsby?
Obviously, but why am I rich? Am I rich because I'm a gangster or just because, like, you know?
No, you're just, it doesn't matter. You make up whatever reason you want. You're just hella rich.
Do I still retain my knowledge of the future?
No.
I can't do anything with it. I can't profit because, like, I'm magic locked. I know.
Yeah, you're like old money rich, so you just, yeah.
But do I know of, like, I know I'm Kenny from the future living out this would you rather?
Sure.
And I can do nothing to change my financial status. I think I'd do 80s, man. If I know like, this is my would you rather like life, I think I'd be excited by the novelty of being in the 80s and kind of knowing what's coming up next every time. You know what I mean? I can't do anything with it. I can't like go to the stock market and get rich. I just think it's just hilarious, you know, like that
Yeah, you're just like a fucking insurance claims adjuster.
Yeah.
You know, locked in that job.
I think I get a kick out of that. Going back to Blockbusters and shit. You know what I mean?
Be cool.
Come out with some of the sickest speedrun tech on some of the video games that didn't come out for like 50 years after they were made and shit. You know what I mean?
Okay, I see.
Just some fun shit. Parlor tricks mainly, you know what I mean? I'm still like insurance claims adjuster.
I think I would take 20s. I just recently saw that that new movie with Brad Pitt. Oh my god. I can't even remember what it's called. Just came out recently. Babylon? What's it called? Babylon?
Yeah, I think it is.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that movie's wild. But I was just like, man, if I was just like hella rich in Los Angeles in the 20s, like that looked fun AF.
I would definitely pick the 80s because the amount of changes in society and historical events in general, I think it was just a really exciting time to be alive and to actually sit there and appreciate it and kind of know what's coming next and see the advances. Just inflation in general was like a roller coaster. I mean, dude, that period of 10 years, I mean, sure, a lot more has happened in 10 years, you know, from like the 90s to 2000s, maybe not 2000s to the teens. But I think the 80s was definitely pivotal in a lot of like historical events, just in general, and also technology.
I'm at my laser discs. My fucking Atari game systems.
I mean, even worldwide, like changes in society. I mean, a lot of what happened in the 80s.
Dog, you're gonna be in America, insurance claims adjuster, just chilling.
I like how Rob is like, oh, this would be so cool to experience. I'm like, Rob, you were there.
Dog,
You already did that. You already experienced all that.
I did do that.
man, you're just going
cool
back
to,
in
like,
time. So like
Yeah.
something you already did, but like now you're going to be like a grown man with a regular ass job.
I guess it's different, you know, when you can kind of like maybe appreciate the stuff.
I would be
I don't
bored
know.
out of my mind in the 20s.
No way.
No,
In the
Not
20s.
once.
there's no way.
Dog, I need video games. I need constant interaction. I need
There
constant.
was video games, dude.
In the
Nintendo,
20s.
NES.
Said the
No, we're
20s.
talking about the 20s.
Oh, in the 20s?
20s.
Dude.
I would.
That's
You
just a
just
bunch
have
of
to be,
people drank
like-
on the down low. That's
you have to
it.
be more extroverted, dude. Like there was so much cool shit going on in the 20s.
Yeah, but that's like I have to go
Like
do stuff.
what?
That's what I'm saying. Like you'd have to be more extroverted.
Bro, I'm like video game here, audiobook here. I've got fucking
Some
a
pinball
Netflix
and,
show
like,
there. Like that's my
jazz
life,
and,
dude.
like, and like go find a place to drink in like 5 minutes. Like, whoa, how fast can I find a place to drink in this city?
Yeah, dog. I
Like
would
that's it.
die
That's
of
the
boredom.
20s.
I would die.
Wow,
of
you
boredom.
guys are like
That is the
There's so
20s.
many. Like, okay, well, I think that if you're like introverted and you don't like going out and doing stuff, then yeah, it would probably be
I
kind of
do
boring.
like going out. I would go city to city just to see how fast I could find booze.
Yeah, like I mean, I think it would be really cool to experience it. Just to be honest,
But that's literally it. You would have to do the same thing in each city.
And then I'm gonna be laying in bed one night and I'm gonna be like, man, I really wish I had an audiobook right now. Really wish I could fucking scroll through TikTok right now. Really wish I
You
could
don't
watch
even have air
Netflix.
conditioning.
I know. I'm like, I really wish I wasn't dying of heat exhaustion in this bed right now.
I mean, granted, you probably didn't need it as much and there wasn't as many people, but and the earth was definitely different. But what was the population of the earth in the 1920s?
I think like meeting new people and having like conversations would be so much more interesting in the 20s because like in the 20s you had to have like personality or just like nobody wanted to hang out and talk with you because there wasn't the massive level of like introverted activity that we have now where it's
That's true.
like if I talk to somebody and like as like a new person, right? And their whole thing is like watching TV. I'm like, you are the most boring fucking person on the planet. I don't want to talk to you. You know,
There was no TV in the 20s.
well, exactly. That's what I'm saying is that like people had interests that were more interesting for like conversation about.
Nah, I would die of boredom. Couldn't do it.
Okay.
Die of boredom.
No.
Holy cow. It was only like 1.86. It was basically a quarter of what it is today.
Straight die boredom. At least in the 80s, I can watch VHSs and shit.
Yeah. See, I like some of these answers we're seeing in chat, like with like being hella rich in the 20s affords you like a level of freedom that you still don't even have today, which is the way the world was back then. Like
I
you
don't
could
know.
be Indiana Jones, like
Yeah.
like there's so many cool shit like
I'll
things. You just
scrape
have
my
to
knee and get an infection and die.
Oh,
no problem.
God. Oh.
Yeah, that could have been a thing.
Yeah, not to mention,
I think
in the
penicillin was
80s.
discovered late 20s though.
yeah, I think it was 40s. But
I'm
at
pretty
least
sure
in
it
the
was
at least in
20s.
the 80s, like I'm into the 90s real quick, and then that's where the party starts. I can stop.
Oh, there was definitely a party in the 80s, bro.
Yeah, there was, but I can stop Insane Clown Posse from existing, Long John Silver's from existing. Literally, I could actually.
Yeah, you won't have the time. You gotta adjust those insurance claims, dog. You got a job.
You said as long as you said
got a
nothing I can
job.
do can change my finances, right? So I can call in sick. I can perhaps, cause an insurance claim to occur at a certain location early on and have it
All
declared as fraud.
Okay.
And feel like I think I can make some positive plays for society And it always comes back down to stopping Long John Silver's from existing. The most important work of all work. Can never forget. No matter what happens, Marty, you get your ass kicked on a train.
Yeah, see, like John Patrick, he's on the right track. I'm with him. He's like the level of excess and the things that you could do in the 20s with crazy wealth. I'm just like, that'd be fun as fuck to me. Can you imagine just like going somewhere like California or like Texas or Montana and just being like I'm gonna buy all the land to the fucking horizon, and they're like, sure, that'll be like $800. You're like, all right, dog, I'll write you a check.
I mean, I could definitely do some fun stuff for a little while, but still. Kenny dies of boredom at age 41.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, you want to do some news?
Yeah, I could probably definitely do some news here. Let's see, what do we got? All right, well, GW's trying again. Good for them. So there's some good and some bad. Like they put out free rules, which is always good. It's cool to see free downloads for Azrael and Vashtorr, which I'm sure we're going to talk about later in the show. I talked to a lot of retailers. They got really good, strong pre-orders for this box, the Wrath of the Soulforge King or whatever. It's good to see because there hasn't been a whole lot of hype for maybe the World Eaters had a little bit of hype behind them. Definitely Imperial Guard. But the big thing is that it seems to be either based on the fact that there's good value in the box, especially if you split it with a friend, or just the fact that maybe the rules are a free download. So why not? I can't say enough good things about free rules download. So it's really cool to see. And I think they're definitely onto something. And hopefully we see more of it going into 10th edition. The unfortunate thing about this week's releases from Games Workshop is all of the boarding patrols are allocated one per store, which means that if you don't get your pre-order in quick, you probably won't get one for 2 or 3 weeks when they unlock them back to stores to get them as restocks, which will take a couple of weeks to get in, et cetera, et cetera. So, like I said, they added that extra shell to the shell game. I'll probably write an editorial about it here coming up soon, but I spoke with some, what did I call them? I guess the technical term is omni-channel retailers, which are basically what you and I would normally call a wholesaler, air quotes, not necessarily a distributor, just somebody that gets product on the cheap and then just dumps it. And the one I spoke with and another one I spoke to, well, all of them off the record, but they told me a lot of things that they had direct communication from Games Workshop, and the stuff that they were told, I'm not sure I'm ever going to specifically talk about the things they said, but I do want to mention the fact that you can find this stuff on eBay for a lot cheaper than would normally be possible from your local game store. But that may have led to what's happening right now with a lot of these allocations, because what's happening is Games Workshop, a lot of these wholesalers were like, yo, dog, you need to give us the new releases. We understand what's happening now in this space. We need the new releases. That's what people really want. We can discount this stuff and it'll sell eventually, but you giving it to us like, a month to 6 weeks later after it comes out doesn't do dick for us. We need it the week it comes out, right? And GW is like, I can see what GW be thinking, like, nah, we need to be dropping this on our site. We need to be dropping this to our game stores. We can't be doing this. So after digging up all this and speaking with these wholesalers, what I think is happening with these allocations is GW doesn't have a lot of these larger wholesalers to clearance product out that's dead movers for them. So what they're doing is they're messing around with their little shell game, and they're sitting here and they're like, hey, all right, so check it out. We're going to try to move as much on our website. We're gonna give just a piece, just a teaser out to the game store, just a teaser, just to whet their palate and sell some stuff. And then that third week, whatever's left over, all right, then it's fair game. Then we'll give it out to everybody. And I think that's kind of what's happening because they don't have that spigot at the end of the product cycle to just dump it all out, pallets out the door to these wholesalers and get it out. And what does that mean to everybody out there? At the end of the day, about the majority of this, but just the fact that you're going to have to wait longer for your product is an annoyance. It's an annoyance for game stores. It's an annoyance for the end user. And I'm kind of frankly tired of talking about it, but here we are. The good news is this week, though, is that the Wrath of the Soulforged King box that everybody seems very interested in is allocated to 100 units per store, which means you'll probably be able to get it, which is pretty good. The boarding patrols are only one each. The Typhon Heavy Siege Tank for Horus Heresy, 2 each, and the Black Library books 2 each. So it is what it is. If you wanted any of that other stuff that's allocated, you might just have to wait a little longer, but not that big of a deal. Now, if you're looking to crack out on some hobby projects, Liber Demonica is putting out a line of Leviathan upgrade bits in resin for a lot of the different chapters out there. They look super fresh. I haven't got my hands on them. I'm hoping they send some to me. But just looking at their renders, they definitely look really cool. So check those out. Pop Goes the Monkey has their current Atlas. They call them Atlas upgrades. Those work with the current Plastic Redemptor kit. However, they posted up on their Facebook, I guess one of their users tried it on the new Brutalis Dreadnought, and it works just fine. So now you've got 2 different ways to use the same exact upgrade kit that you can get from Pop Goes the Monkey to, customize your Brutalis Dreadnoughts if you picked up those Space Marine box sets a couple of weeks ago. If you're looking to get into a new game, possibly Star Wars Shatterpoint, AMG will have demos at Adepticon. You will have to go to their booth. You will have to get a physical ticket, and there's some rules for it.
You mean they won't just come up to my hotel room and demo it for me?
Nah. Maybe they will if you ask them.
Yeah, I will.
All right, do it.
I'll tell them that Rob told me you would.
Don't involve me in this. This is your thing. Just play dumb and be like, I thought it was a Star Trek game.
Are they gonna have a mini for that game at Adepticon?
I think they're gonna have their painted stuff, but I don't think for sale or anything like that.
I thought there was like an Ahsoka Tano mini or something they were gonna have.
So if
Legion.
No, that's for Shatterpoint, but that's for pre-orders in June when you go to pick up your box. And it has to be through a, what do they call it? Hobby Next retailer.
Oh, so if I got it direct from Asmodee's website, then I don't get that?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I'm sure they'll be out on the secondary market, and all those Grogu's, the special edition Grogu that came out for Star Wars Legion eventually were offered to smaller level stores. So maybe stores will get lucky and be able to just get that Ahsoka later on too. It's hard to say. But there is an Ahsoka coming out for both Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Legion in the future that they showed off last year at Mini Stravaganza. So that'll be pretty cool to see like how that shakes out. So Shatterpoint demos as well. Check those out at Adepticon. There's a bunch of dope alternate art cards and stuff like that for all their games too. They're having paint contest, all sorts of cool stuff going on. And they had a new preview today, shadowy preview for MCP. It looks to be Squirrel Girl. A lot of people seem very excited about that one.
I don't know who that is.
She 1v1 Thanos and won.
Dope. Sounds like
that doesn't happen very often.
All my comic book stuff, like my knowledge ends in the late 90s and then picks up again with the MCU.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's perfect for MCP for the most part. So yeah, there's that, and I'm sure they'll have a bunch of other stuff going on too. So check those out. A lot of retailers that we haven't seen before are going to be at Adepticon. So if you are going to make it, definitely walk around in the vendor hall. There's going to be a really good mix from what I can see of vendors there. A lot of folks that we haven't seen before. A lot of people we've talked about throughout the years too. It's really cool to see. Something else that I thought was pretty solid at Games Workshop is they rolled out a trial recycling program for their sprues. And we talked about this before. Actually, Brent from Goobertown talked about it initially, like kind of broke it down, like why you can't recycle their sprues because they're the high injection plastic, the hips, so to speak. And a lot of recycling places can, but they're more like larger regional facilities. It's not like you can just throw it in your recycle bin and have your local people pick it up. It doesn't work like that. They're just going to end up throwing it away. So it's cool to see that Games Workshop has this thing in the UK right now where you can put them, in the box at your local store, and also the paint pots too. Hopefully they expand the project to everywhere, to be quite honest. Like, I think that's a pretty huge thing, because that is a large source of waste on their part that I feel like is unnecessary. They also started with the Agastus box set. Instead of shrink wrapping the larger boxes, they use a little sticker, a clear like oval sticker to seal the boxes, which obviously reduces waste as well. So good on them for doing that. And I don't think they got enough credit for it, to be quite honest.
I didn't even know about that.
It's pretty huge. Wizards of the Coast came out with a pilot recycling program very similar for their Magic card wrappers too last year. They rolled it out to their premium stores. I don't think it made it to down the chain, so to speak. Oh, speaking of Wizards of the Coast, if you're looking to pick up any of those 30th anniversary Magic the Gathering packs,
only $1,000.
Only $1,000. They are, a lot of stores got theirs this week, so they are going to be readily-ish available.
I just made that number up off the top of my head, by the way.
It is $1,000.
That's shocking. I just was going high. I was like, I was trying to be, hyperbolic. You know what I mean? Like,
you gotta dream bigger these days.
God.
That's Magic cards, man.
God damn.
Dude, it's wild out there on the Magic card scene. Oh man, that's a different podcast, man. I'll talk Magic forever. Anyways, I just love seeing the new shit, and I'm like, I remember that guy, and it's cool. So we talked about the allocations a bit. Army Painter did reveal 2 new speed paint sets. They will, I think, eventually everything will be live in June. You'll be able to get the singles. You'll be able to get I think it's 5 box sets now. These will be a starter set of 10 paints for about $4 each. I think it's $39.99, and the Most Wanted Speed Paint 2.0 set for $99.99. So that's going to be similar to the Mega set that came out initially. This will have the Most Wanted colors and I think 2 metallics in it. So be on the lookout for all sorts of different speed paint products coming up here. There'll be the initial sets in April, and then we'll see all this stuff hit in about June time. I think it's a good product overall. The metallics, just keep in mind, just to temper expectations, the metallics are being called a speed paint, but they do not work the same way as the colored speed paint, so to speak, because the metallics, they don't have that true 3D like kind of effect. They're more of a 2D. They apply better. You don't really have to put down any base coat, and they're smoother, and apply and lay out better.
Yeah, the nature of a metallic paint is that it needs to be opaque in order to deploy the gimmick of being literally shiny and reflective. Yep. So that's in opposition to a traditional speed paint. So it's really like improved Army Painter metallic paint for good coverage and high opacity. Like,
I think they're very good in that regard, and they do have a little bit of contrast or depth to them, but not to the same level as the speed paint that we all know in our head at this point. Speed paint, contrast, express paint, whichever, pick one. They're all function the same relatively. So just kind of keep that in mind. And I did want to mention real quick that over on the Spiky Bits web store, we did bring back the fat sack of bits for a limited time. I think I made up like 30 of them, and probably a half have sold at this point. So it's just something cool we do every year with all the leftover bits and things, and kind of throw them into a bag, through models in there, and some extra just fun little stuff. So check that out if you're in the market for something cool. And also, as a solid to everybody, our mystery boxes this month, all like 4 or 5 of them, the different ones we have, the values inside from basically today forward will be the older prices. If you select Games Workshop stuff, the 2022 prices, we're basically rolling back the GW price increase for a month.
We're rolling back GW's price increase.
We're rolling it back. So if you are getting a mystery box with some GW stuff in it, you'll get even more value for your money, because, spoiler alert, we still have our money in the old cost. So why charge people more? And so there you go. So check it all out over at the Spiky Bits web store, spikybits.com/store. So that's the news as I see it.
So I got something. So
I'm listening.
Back to living in the 20s for a second.
Oh my gosh.
I think I figured it out.
Okay.
I'm super rich, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So first I thought of, I could pay people to read to me, like Audible.
Yeah.
Obviously. But then I was like, I could start Audible on vinyl.
Ooh, yeah, you could.
Vinable.
Yeah, Vinable, right? Because we used to buy audiobooks on like cassettes and CDs and shit. I was like, bro, we get some motherfuckers in here, like OG, like radio
really
voice,
motherfucker. That's what I was going to say.
You know what I'm saying? Like radio,
stars.
yep, crazy ass radio voice motherfuckers, and we get all this shit lined up. I'm infinite rich, right? So I just line up a studio. And we're just going through like the library, dog, like every book known to man. That's exciting. And we also kind of know what the bangers are going to be for like every following decade.
There you go. Yeah.
So we can also begin to steer the market into like what the hotness is and get those exclusive.
It's a solid plan. Radio was huge for many years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We can get the exclusive deals on shit before people even know. And basically just vinyl fucking collections of audiobooks. So that'd be my plan. Okay. Like if I went to the 20s, I'm going to become Vinable.
Solid.
I like that that's what you were doing this entire news segment, was just thinking about that.
I was thinking about a way to make the 20s work for me.
I'm just going to hustle this shit. No, that's a good one.
Bro, like I'll basically take over the airways with that shit, dude. Sell them at stores, everything, dude. We'd have listening parties. Like I'd set up like the sickest prohibition listening parties.
You could just have it going, like, you know, because people had the phonographs in their
you could just
house.
buy your own radio station and just have it be like reading books.
Yeah. No, we're gonna do everything, dog.
State.
So anything between segments?
I got nothing.
We will have merch at Adepticon, so come by the Long War Doubles on Friday all day in the main 40K hall and pick you up some Long War swag.
Tight.
Also, I believe me and you, Kenny, have been podcasting officially for 10 years now. If another podcast is to believe that they too have been doing it for 10 years. I think the dates line up as of last week.
So the podcast that shall not be named just celebrated their 10th year?
They did.
So that means we've been doing this for 10 years.
Indeed. I believe that. Logic
Congratulations,
dictates.
Rob. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Kenny. Hey, I got this idea. Have you thought about YouTube?
Yeah, I have. So we've got the new, what is this shit called? Army of Renown, Wyatt?
Oh, yeah, there is an army around for Mr. Vashtorr.
Yeah, so we got Vashtorr's data sheet and his Army of Renown. Pretty cool.
So a lot of people online are haters of Vashtorr, is what we were talking about earlier?
It seems like some serious hate.
We were kind of talking about this during tactics earlier, and it's like there's kind of a trap with modern 40K, especially if you're like really into following the meta, like the bleeding edge kind of thing, where it's like if something isn't the new overpowered ultra spicy hotness, then it's dog shit. It's terrible, unplayable.
I don't accept.
Don't even get it. Don't even think about using it. It's so fucking bad.
Slap it out of your friend's hands.
It's just not the case, right? Like there's like a sliding scale of how bad something is or how good something is, right? So yeah, a lot of people have just been like doomers about Vashtorr, and I'm like, if you really analyze this data sheet and this army of Renown even from a competitive standpoint, like Kenny and I are competitive players, I'm like, this is pretty good. Like by all metrics, if you break it down objectively, like his stat line, his abilities, what the army of Renown does, the composition of the list you might make, like this is solid. This is solid. Like, is it OPAF? No. Is it like, break the meta, crush the GTs, easy? No. But it is very good. So like let's get into it. Let's look at Vashtorr himself, right? Mm-hmm. So out the gate, 260 points.
That's a lot.
What do you get for 260, right? So Vashtorr, he's a 14 wound model, toughness 7, right? So he's a beefy lad. He has fly, so he can move 12 inches. Weapon skill 2, ballistic skill 3, strength 7, T7, 7 attacks, 2 up save. And, he's got a bunch of wounds, so he has a degradation table. Not everybody likes degradation tables, but it's okay. Like his weapon skill, ballistic skill never changes. His strength never changes. He loses some attacks and he loses some movement. But even at his lowest bracket, he's still flying around 8 inches, which is a pretty fast move speed.
That's not bad. Right? That's super.
And at his lowest bracket, he still has 5 attacks, which is pretty okay for a character. So he's got his claw, which is a flame weapon. It's 12-inch range, assault D6. Strength 5, -2, 1 damage, auto hits. Pretty standard. Then he's got his hammer, which is going to hit at strength 14, -2, 3 damage. And its special rule is when you attack a vehicle on a wound roll of 5 up, it does 4 flat mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends. And so does he have a billion attacks? No. But when he's got like 7 attacks with a strength 14, 3 damage thunder hammer, that's slapping. That's pretty solid.
Yeah. And just raw stats though, like 260 is nothing, Rob. Like in modern 40K, that's nothing.
Are you sure?
Yeah, there's nothing.
For a big guy like this, that's pretty good cost.
That's nothing, dude. Right? Like I pay 300 points for a squad of Vanguard vets, dog.
So let's look at his abilities. He can deep strike for free. He has warp strike. Not everything has warp strike. So I mean, like Angron doesn't have warp strike. Right. So this guy can deep strike natively. It's a really good utility power to have. He's got the body of Unholy Artifice, gives him a 4-up invul save.
2 up, 4 up, dude.
Fantastic.
And neg 1D, right?
Yeah, and -1 damage. So that's a fantastic defensive stat line.
Yeah, 14 wounds, man. So like 260 points is 14, 2 up, 4 up, -1 damage wounds. That's beef.
Right. So only his real like weakness, if you want to call it like a weakness, is that the only way to keep this guy safe is obscuring terrain because he's got too many wounds to be character blocked, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you could say the same thing of a Lord Discordant. Look how widespread the Lord Discordant is.
Lord Discordant can be character blocked.
Oh, it has like 13 wounds.
No, it's 9 wounds.
Oh, I'm thinking of the old one.
The old one.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm thinking the last time I played.
Bro, it's just like anything, bro. He can be obscured. The footprint just needs to be wider than him. It's not that hard. He can turn sideways. Like,
so I think he's on like a 60 millimeter base.
Yeah, like he's.
I think he's going to be on an 80 because Azrael's on 50.
Still not too bad. Not too bad.
Oh,
but anyways, so T7, 14 wounds, 2 up, 4 up, -1 damage. Pretty dang good. So then he's got 3 abilities you can choose from in the command phase. And this is where his like utility purpose kind of comes into play. So, Unholy Mechanisms. When you select this ability, you can select 1 friendly Traitoris Astartes Demon Engine, within 3 inches until the start of your next command phase. It's +1 to hit. Solid. Ghost in the Machine. When you select this ability, select one enemy unit within 18 inches and visible till the start of the next command phase. Have the range characteristic of range weapons models in that unit are equipped with.
Love that one, dude.
Really good. And it's the name is a little weird because it says Ghost in the Machine, but it's any enemy unit, not vehicles. It's just any enemy unit. And then he's got Agonized Machine Spirits. When you select this ability, select one enemy vehicle unit within 18 and visible to the start of the next command phase. Have the move and attacks characteristic of models in that unit. Again, really useful. He has a set warlord trait. It's not the greatest. It's Lord of Terror, which has to do with like morale checks or whatever. But when you look at this guy, he's like a general archetype. And what I mean by general is that like he's like commanding the forces, right? So he's a buffer. You know, if you need him to, he can go off and he can slap something down, but he's not like your frontline beat stick, unkillable god sort of character. That's not what he does. He's like a slightly tougher and more buffing oriented Lord Discordant without the offense. But I mean, like 7 of these strength 14 Thunderhammer attacks with no negatives. It's pretty solid.
I mean, no,
and it does a 4 mortal wound against vehicles.
Yeah, he'll slap any tank down. But like, straight up, T7, 14 wounds with a 2/4 -1 damage. That's like, so he's like disgusting resilience, basically, right? Like, literally, that is not bad, man. That's actually a little, that's kind of tricky, man. That's not like, not a lot of people these days are built for like alpha strike shooting. And because of terrain exists, you're not going to be able to ever get all your bullets aimed at him, especially if you're doing player placed or you're just being clever about it, or you just fucking put him in free deep strike or whatever the fuck you do. That dude is very easy to not, to make not visible to your opponent in some capacity. He's not that bad. He fucks. If he makes contact, he'll hurt things, but he also can sit back, like Wyatt said, and hand out these buffs and debuffs, which I find fascinating to be able to say within 18 inches, that unit has its range. So then the other shit in my army can't be shot at. Like that's a game breaker.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, especially because his army of Renown is really demon engine centric. So things that are going to hurt you is like Melta, right? Melta has like relatively short range. So if you're like, I'm going to cut that Melta range in half, take your 24 to 12 or take your 12 to 6. You know, it's like, all of a sudden you can't shoot me with your Melta guns. You know? Yeah. Like solid.
But ultimately he is just a tax for this army of Renown though, too. Like,
yeah, like he has to be your warlord. But I mean, I think he's a really solid data sheet for that kind of model. And here's the thing too. It's like, unlike, so he has to be your warlord, right? But that doesn't mean you have to buy his warlord trait.
Correct.
Because his warlord trait is set. It's from the CSM book. It has to do with like morale checks. It's not very good. So it's like, you know, build your list, you know, just agnostic of anything else. You have 6 CP to play with. And so you still have the option of building something like a Lord Discordant and give him like, you know, the Flames of Spite, like super blender build and like put some CP on that guy, you know. But let's look at the army of Renown. Kind of go into that. It's called the Cogs of Vashtorr. Restrictions must have Traitoris Astartes keyword for everything. Your warlord must be Vashtorr, and with the exception of Vashtorr, you cannot include any named characters or Demon Prince models. And your army cannot include Khorne Berserkers, Rubric Marines, Plague Marines, or Noise Marines. So like literally everything else in the CSM Codex is fair play. Benefits. Everybody gains the Cogs of Vashtorr keyword. You have access to Cogs of Vashtorr relics and strats. Units in your army gain the Tech Infernal Foci ability. Detachments in your army never count as a Legion detachment, and you cannot use any Legion-specific stratagems, relics, warlord traits, or psychic powers. And basically just says like, even if you selected Black Legion as your detachment, you can't use any Black Legion strats, and you cannot give a character Black Legion relics or warlord traits. So let's look at the ability. If this unit has the Demon Engine keyword, it is always considered to be engaged in wanton destruction, massacre, and slaughter. All at the same time, all day, every day. If the unit does not have Demon Engine, it is never considered to be in any wanton destruction, massacre, or slaughter. So that's your trade-off. We got some relics. Talisman of the Forge. In your command phase, select one friendly Demon Engine model within 9 inches of the bearer till the start of your next command phase. Each time that model would lose a wound, roll 1d6. On a 5-up, that wound is not lost. Fantastic to hand out. Helm of the Cyberphage gives the bearer an aura. While a friendly Demon Engine model is within 6 inches of the bearer, each time that model makes an attack that targets a vehicle model, improve the AP by 1. It's an okay rule, but it's not like useful all the time, because it's only against vehicles, but extra AP against vehicles is pretty good. Then the Spite Iron Goad. In your command phase, select one friendly Demon Engine model within 9 until the end of the turn. That unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. Also,
love that.
Really, really great point and click to have out there.
That's a super versatile ability,
especially in 9th.
They get 6 stratagems. Forge Surge for 1 CP. Using your shooting phase when a Demon Engine model, excluding Titanic, from your army is selected to shoot until the end of the phase. Do not roll to determine the number of attacks. Instead, make the maximum number of attacks.
God.
So it's great.
That's got so much play.
So much play.
Like that's the shit Iron Warriors just needed across the table.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
So good. Like where did our brains go to first? Decimators.
Decimators, obviously. But if you don't like playing Forge Worlds, suddenly the Forge Fiend with ectoplasma cannons.
Yep.
Which is a decent ass price tag, maxes its shots out with ectoplasma cannons. And there's other ways to enhance further with some of these auras that you just heard about. Defiler, one of my favorite units in the Chaos Codex for its
really
points.
Good for the Defiler.
That man super punches. He moves 8 inches. He has the Defiler cannon, D6 shots, and it's flat 3. That's just 6 shots.
Max out your heavy flamer shots.
And your heavy flamer. Dude, there's some versatility on using like a smattering of demon engines, not like spamming 3 Defilers and 3 Forge Fiends, but like a Forge Fiend, a Defiler, a this. Like that one stratagem instantly had me perked up when you read it to me earlier.
It's a super good stratagem. Like I wish I could play it on Titanic units, like the.
And it says the model, the model doesn't roll, right?
Yeah, you do not roll to determine the number of attacks. Instead, make the maximum number of attacks with such weapons this phase.
Bruh, so dirty.
That's
super good for 1 CP. Master's Guidance for 2 CP. Use a stratagem at the start of your shooting phase or at the start of the fight phase. Till the end of the phase, your Warlord has the following ability. Aura. While a friendly Demon Engine is within 6 inches of this model, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, you can reroll the hit roll.
Wait a minute.
So good.
Wait, it's an aura of full rerolls for 2 CP?
Chapter Master rerolls for 2 CP. So, I mean,
but it's an aura, not a point and click.
Right. So back when we were doing this before, so like last year, I was having a lot of success with the Lord of Skulls and the Iron Warriors, doing things like Demon Forge and the Warlord trait for 6s pop off. So it's basically the same thing. So now like all of your Demon Engines have exploding 6s on every single attack because it's in all 3 of the wanted stuff all the time. And now instead of paying CP on Demon Forge for 1 model, you pay 2 CP and you have this huge aura around Vashtorr that gives full hit rerolls to everything.
Yeah.
So again, like something like Decimators, it's fantastic. Where you have 3 Decimators around this dude.
3 Decimators around this dude, full rerolls.
One of those guys is getting full 12 shots, right?
Right. All of them have exploding 6s.
Yep.
Right. So hits, right?
Yeah, you can hand out +1s to hit.
One of them is going to be maxed out, so he's going to just be the maximum 9. What is it? 12. Maximum 12. Exploding 6s, bro. 3 Decimators near Vashtorr just with what we've gotten to so far is the most DPS of any decimators in history. Again, if you don't want to play Forge World units, suddenly an ectoplasm, an ectoplasma cannon guy, a defiler, whatever. I mean, that dude's exploding sixes. They're getting full rerolls. Literally, that's the most amount of DPS I've ever heard of from a Forge Fiend. That makes that unit work. Think about that.
Yeah, it's solid.
That unit didn't work
great
before.
Stratagem. Yeah. We got Cogitated Fates for 1 CP. Use this in your shooting phase. When a Traitoris, Astartes unit from your army is selected to shoot till the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, the target cannot receive the benefits of cover against that attack.
Turning off cover. These are like the rules Iron Warrior should have had, man.
Dude, this is like the dream.
This is literally this should just be Vashtorr's Iron Warriors, dog. Like this is like
right. And this is cover in general, not light cover or dense. It's just all cover, so it ignores light cover and dense cover. Pretty tight. You got Glitch Curse for 1 CP. Use this in your opponent's shooting phase. When an enemy within 18 of and visible to your warlord has finished making its attacks. If any of those attacks targeted a Traitoris Astartes unit from your army that is within 6 inches of your warlord, roll a d6. On a 2 to a 4, the enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 5 up, that enemy suffers 3 mortal wounds.
I love it. Just a 1 CP smite to the thing that shot.
Yep. We got Kako Spark Prattle for 1 CP. Use this stratagem after your opponent uses a stratagem, excluding command reroll. If your warlord is on the battlefield until the end of the battle, the CP cost your opponent must pay to use that stratagem again is increased by 1. You can only use the stratagem once.
Bro, that is such a good fucking stratagem. Think about how many
like
people.
Vect style or Vect level.
I mean, other people have it. I mean, I wouldn't know. Doesn't Torquemada have that, or what's his name?
Oh, the Inquisitor?
The Inquisitor, doesn't he have that?
Yeah.
So, like, dude, think about, like, all the plays. Like, people with transhuman. Like say they're going to do a transhuman every turn and annoy the fuck out of you, right? You're just like, the whole game. 1 more CP, Doug. The whole game. Like, or people only have 6 CP. So they got a Warlord trait and a Relic, they have 4. Maybe they bought one more thing, they have 3.
They ain't going to have enough.
The game starts, they're at 4 again, right? So let's say they do this, like, high cost 2 CP stratagem, right? That they're going to try to do every turn, and based on how much CP they get back, you turn it to 3 now for the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
So now your turn, they go back up to 3, and then they do it, and then they're never going to do it again. Something that they were going to do maybe 8 times in a game or some shit like that. They never do it.
Fantastic strat. And again, like when you're thinking about list building with this, you know, like you can invest a lot of CP into something like a beat stick, Lord Discordant or something. But I don't think you have to. Like when we start talking about list builds, like you're going to see, like, I don't think you have to have that beat stick guy. So you're going to be like CP flush, where your opponent might be like heavily budgeted for their CP.
Yeah.
And if their strategy is dependent on like a really important 1 or 2 CP strat, you can like shut them down by making this extra. The last one's called Foul Alterations for 1 CP. Use this strat in your movement phase when a Demon Engine unit from your army is selected to advance. Until the end of the turn, that unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced.
Look at that.
Again,
look at
fantastic stratagem.
Bro,
and
there's, the more I think about it, Wyatt, this is not only these rules are designed to make Demon Engines work. So obviously, yes. I've been talking about the Forge Fiend, right? Like it obviously makes the Forge Fiend work so much better, right? Even just the Hades autocannon always exploding is really good, especially with AOC being on. Ectoplasma cannon, obviously, I mentioned it gets better, but this really does make Defilers great again, though, too. Because
Defilers, yes,
they shoot and they fuck, right? They punch and they shoot and they move 8 inches and they have a ton of fucking wounds, right? So suddenly, a group of fucking Defilers walking around with some combination of full hit rerolls, +1 to hit here, with some maybe a warp smith there. One of them maxes its shots out. One of them you're making it so that he takes less damage from one of the other abilities, and then one can fall back and charge. One can advance, shoot, and charge and do all that. Like, bro, you're taking units that can do two things, like shoot and fuck in close combat. You're making these things so much more useful, so much more mileage.
And one of the things that we were like, I kind of went to first was the Master of Possession, because again, this is very similar to what I was doing with Iron Warriors last year, with some pros and cons to it, right? So I'm like, oh, I can bring my Master of Possession, throw down my Cursed Earth, have like warp marked out to get +1 to wound against stuff. But honestly, like the more I looked at this, and when I started kind of like crafting some lists around it, a lot of these rules are kind of like all gas, no brakes. So one of the first things I did was just say like, fuck that Master Possession, don't need it. And focus on like, if I'm going to have extraneous characters, the only two things I would take is the Feel No Pain relic. Cause like handing out that point and click 5-up Feel No Pain is fantastic, especially if you're like me and you want to bring like one of the big boys, like the Brass Scorpion or a Khitan or a Lord of Skulls. Giving that guy 5-up Feel No Pain with their current save profile is really good. And then the Spite Iron Goad, where you can point and click something and have it fall back, shoot, and charge. You don't really need that for Titanic units because they do it anyways, but for some of your other stuff, that's really good. And then maybe like a Warlord trait or something. Like, we could kind of look at some of them, but I don't really care. And so I was thinking about how I would want to run this. And I put together like two builds that immediately made me pretty happy. One build has a couple of big boys because I really like kind of having that sort of half and half, where it's like I kind of want something like Chaos Knights, and then also to have some Demon Engines scuttling around. So you can fit 2 Khitan Ravagers into a list and still have 5 or 6 Demon Engines rolling around.
Nice. That's like War Dogs and Knights. I love that.
Yeah. So in
Iron Warrior style.
It was like 2 Khitan Ravagers, 2 Decimators with Soul Burners, a Blood Slaughterer, and a Venom Crawler. And then I was like, I'll take a Lord Disco and just make him kind of a buffer. So then I have like basically like 2 Vashtorrs running around. And then I think I had to fill points with like a Cultist unit. So that one's kind of cool. Like that one it's certainly fun and it's going to do really fun mecha madness things, but is going to be a little bit weak on secondaries. And then I was like, maybe like the big guys aren't the way because they're so expensive now. Like it kind of hurts me again, the 575 point cost for a Lord of Skulls. So I was like, well, okay, no big boys. Like those are off the table. So let's see what we can do. And in the other list, I'm like, I can have 2 Lord Discos. So maybe like one is the buffer with the hand out the 5-up Feel No Pain, maybe a Warlord trait that buffs stuff.
One of them is the guy who fucking advances and charges and fucking punches you in the mouth.
Yeah, one of them is the torpedo.
Yeah.
Then it's got like 3 or 4 troop units. One of the things that I saw, it's probably old news to most people, but I was like, oh, you can bring the Traitor Guardsmen now. And I was like, I would much rather have Traitor Guardsmen for 60 points than Cultists for 50. Also, I fucking hate Cultists. So that works out great. And then you can have your 3 Decimators with Soul Burners,
which is so much DPS with Vashtorr.
And then you can have 3 fast attack slot or more if you want Demon Engines, because our fast attack Demon Engines are really good budget. The Blood Slaughterer is
and fast, the Venom Crawler.
And the Venom Crawler. Also, don't sleep on the Greater Bloat Drone for 125. Because it's really fast. Moves 14, still has an innate 5-up invul save. It's T7, 9 wounds, 3-up, 5-up. It's got a flame template weapon. It's got an auto cannon on it, and it can still fight. It's not a super fighty guy, but it can still fight. And it's the same cost as Blood Slaughter. It's 125. And then in the heavy slot, you've got a couple of Forge Feeds. And so, let's see. So it was like 2, 5, and then another 4. So it's like you can fit like 10 to 11 demon engines in this list and still have 3 just like goon units to do things like raise banners or sit in your backfield so nobody can deep strike behind you, like all sorts of fun stuff. And even though I'm losing out on like having my cake and eating it too, which is the big guys, it's still like 10 or 11.
It takes advantage of the rules more too.
Going ham. Yeah.
It takes it because the thing is that part of the rules is you're exploding all the time. So you want more instances of that. Part of the rules is that more than one thing can be buffed in some way. You have more than one thing. You have a collection of units like venom crawlers that shoot and charge, which I love them for harassing flanks and getting around corners and shooting things people didn't think they could see and exploding 6s. You've got a grouping of guys who are torpedoes.
Yep.
And you have rules that support both. You've got a grouping of guys who are your max DPS unit. That's the decimators chilling around Vashtorr and just hopping.
There's such like cool stuff you can do with this. Like everything has a relatively good armor save with a 3-up. Everything has a good toughness with 7. Everything has an invul save, which is great. So you can save against some of those anti-tank weapons, which not all vehicles have access to. Everything moves relatively fast. Because even decimators move like 8 or 9 base, right?
Yeah, like 8, I think.
Right. You can do some really wacky stuff. Like,
and they have assault weapons, so they can advance to shoot, but you also you have a way to do a +1 to hit, and you have a way to ignore that. Like, so you can literally
and there's some like really crazy stuff. Like one of the fun things you can do with the Blood Slaughterer is if it advances, it auto advances 6. So that's really good. And if you take the Impaler Harpoon on it, that is a shooting attack that you can throw out that is strength 8 -3 damage, which might explode. You know, it could happen. And if you hit something with that harpoon, you get +2 to charge against the target. So it can move, auto advance 6. Then you play the stratagem so it can advance, shoot, and charge. Shoot it with the harpoon and get +2 to charge against whatever you're shooting. And when it gets in there, it's a very choppy boy. Yeah. Like it does like, what is it? Strength 9 -3 damage, 5 attacks popping off on 6s. Like, whoo, it's cool.
This is a much better. So people out there who were like Dick Carter, Red Corsair, Demon Rush, and never actually did it, like this is the list for you because everyone just advancing and charging is your army theme is not tight. It's fun to move you guys around like that, but this is a bunch of layers of versatility and actionable fucking stratagems and auras and traits so that you can do, basically an Iron Warrior themed Demon Engine army with a combination of balanced shooting and close combat while utilizing like a skew of units, but it looks skewed like, oh, it's all these demon engines. They're all different demon engines though. You got like the mortal wound engines, you got the ectoplasma engine, like the plasma cannon guys. You've got the assaulting guys.
The stuff that's really popular right now. Like, so in the meta watch, like Dark Angels they're at the top of the list, right? And what's their big thing? Transhuman to wound.
Yeah.
You know what doesn't give a fuck about transhuman to wound? Decimators. Where it's like, hey, I'm going to hit you with 12 exploding shots where all I have to do is hit you. And now here's like 14 mortal wounds.
And by the way, forever transhuman is an extra CP to play.
Yeah.
Bro, it's I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't get how so many people on the internet are just.
Because it's exactly what you said in the opening. Like everybody wants to. Well, a lot of people regurgitate what they hear, but also a lot of people, they can't see the inherent, like quick, fast. This is OP. I want this. Like,
yeah,
they're going to be anti.
And I'll be the first person to say, like, do I think that this can like just go to any GT in the meta and like crush it out? Like, no, I don't. I think that some people who have a lot of experience playing with demon engines can make great use of this army and have a lot of fun and like just kind of cruise control to 4 wins, like easy peasy. And then you'll have to work for a couple of more. But that's the thing is like, I look at this and I'm like, man, this looks so much fun.
Yeah.
And Disflux is like no brass scorpion. Like, no, I thought about it, and you can do a lot of fun stuff with the brass scorpion, especially now that it can advance and charge and it has a flat 3d6 charge. So it's definitely can go in there and torpedo some stuff. There's so much fun you can do with this.
Yes, I'm very happy with it. It makes me excited to want to we always fantasize about demon engine armies. I'm sure even Rob does, even though he doesn't play 40K anymore.
I like demon engines.
Yeah.
This is the thing everybody wanted to do back in 2003, the Storm of Chaos book.
Yeah.
This is the Eye of Terror book. And then this is what everybody wanted to do when the Lord D came out, but it just didn't happen. And now you can do it now, especially with all the cool Forge World shit.
I mean, it is straight up. It's just straight up Iron Warriors without being Iron Warriors. It's with.
Yeah, because the reason you took Iron Warriors was because of a Feel No Pain strat, right? And this is before the current decks. This was
Ignore Cover.
Year before last. Ignore Cover.
Exploding Sixes,
which was a Warlord trait, and I mean, Demon Forge, everybody could use.
Yeah, everyone. Basically, the advantage of Iron Warriors was that you ignore cover. You had Exploding Sixes, a possible Exploding Sixes, and a Feel No Pain possible. So this is all the stuff that historically Iron Warriors have been applied to things that Iron Warriors are known for. You know what I mean? I love it.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's if I had this with the point values that I had when I was playing the Mecha Madness before, man, I would be so happy right now. But I can't really do it anymore because the Lord of Skulls is $575. It's so expensive. So, I mean, in my first list build with the Kaitans, that could be a lot of fun. I don't have any Kaitans. So that would be a good reason to pick up a couple, build and paint them. And that's fun. And get to play with those guys because they're a little bit easier to move around the table being on night bases rather than the huge Lord of Skulls tracked platform or whatever. And I still get to have my Decimators. I still get to have some the Scuttly boys with the Venom Crawlers and the Blood Slaughters and stuff. But yeah, this just seems like everything I wanted from a CSM list was just let me go ham with Demon Engines. So much fun.
Ham.
And then on top of that, Vashtorr has got pretty solid rule set. It's a super dope looking model. Pretty neat.
And we haven't even seen the sprues yet. There might be different heads. There might be, I don't think there's going to be a different weapon. There could be a different weapon look, but we kind of know what his hammer does.
Even not, I think the model looks really cool. I think I love that he's kind of walking around using his hammer as a pimp cane. And I kind of like that he's this kind of reclusive, weird, eccentric demon that's I just want to do my weird experiments and sell weapons to people. And he's kind of the if Angron is the embodiment of the war aspect of what a demon prince could be, this guy is if a weird technophile from the Dark Mechanicum ascended to demon princehood. So he's more of a nerd. He's the weird, crazy Doc Brown of Demon Princes, doing his we gotta go back, Morty. We gotta go back to the Eye of Terror. Sell some weapons. We gotta we do some experiments.
Wow,
do some cool shit.
That was a great. You did a great job covering that new army for Renown, Wyatt. Thank you. And
let's talk about his impression there.
That was also on point.
Yeah.
No, maybe they're gonna hire you to be the new voice actor.
I don't know. I know that some people have been saying that his artwork makes him look a little goofy, and it kind of does.
That's G-Dub in general.
He's got those goggle eye looking things, because he's supposed to be a mad scientist, and so he always looks hella surprised. And there's this piece of artwork where he's I don't know if it's in the book, the GT book, but it's he's in the middle of an experiment and Abaddon is on his doorstep. Oh, here it is. Yeah. So he's doing some weird, he's hammering and forging and doing an experiment. And Abaddon is just over in his doorway. And I his head is kind of turned to the side. And he's telling Abaddon, no refunds. You bought those bolters fair and square. It's your fault they don't work. All sales are final.
It's like what was it, Mr. the parody of Needful Things? What was
Needful Things. I don't know.
Yeah, in Rick and Morty, the Stephen King book where it's the devil in summer, the devil's pawn shop comes into town.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, where he's selling like the cursed items.
Yeah. What was his name? But it was the devil.
I don't remember.
It was basically Needful Things.
Nobody knows what you're talking about.
I mean, I know
this is a Stephen King novel. If
From
you
what,
have
like
not
the
read
60s or something?
you need to read a book. Read a book.
I mean, if I start my Audible vinyl business, I guess I'll pay somebody to.
I know. I just think this guy's really cool, and in my head, I'm just really leaning into the comic side of it, where he's this like crotchety old evil scientist, doesn't want to mess with anybody. He's just like, I just want to like fuse these guys together and see what happens, and like sell bolters on the black market.
Alfred Molona, Imperious Seth says, is a devil in Rick and Morty.
Oh, that's the voice actor.
Oh. I don't know.
Oh, was that? Was that who it was? I didn't realize that.
Nobody but you and Imperious Seth knew that.
I didn't know that, but I know who he is.
Well, that was a good episode, guys. And we have one more to go before Adepticon. So, Rob,
There's a cat.
I'm going to hand it over to you with no trickery whatsoever. No, nothing. Just, you want to take us out of here, Rob?
I don't believe you. What are you up to? What's happening here? Are you conspiring with this cat behind me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, y'all. We will be at Adepticon Friday. Come by, see us at the Long Wars Doubles. But before that, head on over to thelongwar.net for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.